Chapter 10. Efren felt a gentle nudge on his shoulder. Mijo, mijo, said Appa. I'm sorry, but I need to take a quick shower. He pointed to the dark circle on his armpit. Can't go to work all apestoso. Efren stretched out his arms, remembering he was still in the bathtub. Oh, hey, Appa. Sorry I fell asleep reading. Appa laughed to himself. I figured. He bent down and wrapped his arms around Efren. Here, let me give you a hand. Appa scooped Efren out with little effort. Appa's strength surprised Efren. I can't believe you can still do that. Actually, I'm pretty surprised too, said Appa, again laughing. Someday you will be too big for me to do that, but today is not that day. So come on, you need to go get to bed. It's too early for you to be up. Okay, Appa. Efren tucked his library book under his arm, carefully bear-hugged his blanket and pillow, and headed to the living room area. Max was spread across the mattress, snoring just slightly, while Mia clung to her naked plush doll. Rays of blue moonlight poked through the broken blinds. Efren looked over at the empty mattress and shook his head. The sheets were still folded just like the night before. Efren didn't understand where Appa found the energy. Even after all the overtime trying to raise money to bring back Amma, he still found time to worry about them. This was all he needed to see. If Appa can be this strong, why can't I? Efren wanted to solve his problems too. It was then that he decided to tell David everything. He still did not know what he was going to say or where to start for that matter, but he knew the words would come when the moment was right. They had to. Their friendship was at stake. Efren wanted to get to his own school with enough time to find David, so he dropped off Max and Mia a little earlier than normal. The three of them arrived so early that they were the first in the school breakfast line. Max had his head set on some pan dulce and chocolate milk. Mia on silver dollar pancakes, the ones with maple syrup bits inside that the school sometimes served. Sadly, both had to settle for generic brand Cheerios and slightly bruised bananas. With the twins fed and the playground supervisor now watching over them, Efren hurried to get to his school. The entire main school entrance was empty this early. Most kids hung out in the cafeteria area eating breakfast, something he'd never done before, not with Ama's breakfast milagros taking place every morning. Check that with the milagros Ama used to make. Efren walked over to the tables, wondering if his school was serving the same cereal breakfast as Max and Mia's. He took a quick look at what the kids around him had on their plates. Nope, his school was serving the tiny pancakes Mia had wanted. He was about to get in line when a tap on his shoulder startled him. It was Abraham, the school's very own chisme machine. Whether the gossip was true or not, he was always in the middle of it. Dude, David won. What are you talking about? No one's voted yet. Efren laughed. No one has to. Jennifer dropped out of the race, which means that David wins. This time he raised up his hand for a high five. Efren's mouth went wide open and froze. His mind couldn't accept the news, even as he slapped hands with Abraham. Wait, there's no way Jennifer would just quit like that. Abraham shook his head. She didn't just drop out of the election. She dropped out of school. What? Why? Who cares, said Abraham, shrugging. David's going to be our president. He said the first thing he would do is make sure the school starts serving Takis for breakfast, nitro-flavored. Man, I can't wait. Efren's stomach tightened, and the idea of eating Takis for breakfast had nothing to do with it. He needed to get to the bottom of this now. He bolted up the stairway leading to the library, skipping multiple steps at a time. Winded, he entered through the double doors, hoping to find the one person who could give him the answers he needed, Jennifer's friend, Han Pham. Han was seated near the back of the library by the reference section. The book in front of her was closed, and she had both hands over her face. Hey, Han, are you all right? She lowered her hands and looked directly at Efren. Something was wrong. Her eyes were glassy and tinted pink. Obviously, she'd been crying. What's wrong? Asked Efren. She didn't answer. She just looked down at her closed book. Look, said Efren, I know that we were on opposite sides of this election, but Jennifer is my friend too. I know she really wanted to win. Why would she just quit like this? And why are people saying she dropped out of school? Han's upper lip curled. Something he said had rubbed Han the wrong way. For your information, she didn't just quit. ICE did a raid. Her face squished together as she did her best not to cry. Efren's stomach sank. Oh my goodness, was she... He could barely say the word deported. Hans shook her head as she sobbed. Yet somehow she found the strength to continue speaking. There was a sweep at the Northgate Market on 1st and Harbor. My friend Diego Flores saw the whole thing. said that men in black vests and assault rifles burst inside and cornered the adults, including her mom. He said that her mom screamed for Jennifer to run home, but Jennifer wouldn't leave her side. She even dropped to her knees and tried pleading with the men. Oh my goodness, is Jennifer okay? Where is she? I thought she was born in the U.S. She had to go back to Mexico with her mom, or social services was going to take her. Han buried her face on the folds of her elbow. I didn't even get to say goodbye to her. Efren's stomach twisted and churned in every direction. Poor Jennifer, he said. He couldn't believe what was happening. He knew things like this happened every day, but not to people he knew, people he cared for. Efren cleared his throat. Is there anything we can do for her? I've been thinking about that. Han wiped her nose with a tissue. She wanted to use the ASB position to bring more attention to this problem. She wanted to start a campaign to raise awareness, maybe start a support group to help families. But now she can't do anything. Part of me thinks that I should run in her place, keep fighting in her place. You can do that? Sure, anyone who attended the meeting can run, but can you picture me trying to speak in front of the entire school? No way. Han sniffled and wiped away her tears. She had this Spanish line that she used to say a lot. Somos semillitas, Efren said, beating her to the words. Yeah, that's it. How do you know that? Efren's face grew blank. She told me. He gave a hard swallow. Nos quisieran enterrar, pero no sabían que éramos semillas. It's a Mexican saying. They tried to bury us, but they didn't know we were seeds. Jennifer told me her mom used to say it to her all the time. The words were as clear as day, so clear they stayed in Efren's mind for the rest of the morning. When the first period class started, Efren took his seat, but mostly just stared at the whiteboard in front of him. He tuned out the kids around him, including everything Mr. Garrett said. He trusted Appa, knew he'd never give up on getting Amma back, but what if he couldn't? What if this problem was too big even for him to fix? The thought sent a shiver down Efren's spine. When class ended, he calmly made his way to the next classroom and waited outside. Each period went more or less the same way, except for math, when Efren opened a new browser tab in his Chromebook and did a search. Detaining Center for Kids. What he found shook him. He scrolled down page after page of photos showing little children behind chain link fences, sleeping on tiled floors, aluminum benches, and in some cases, in each other's arms. He thought back to what Jennifer had said and did a search for chicken farms. A few of the images were alike. Many, though, showed chickens running freely in open yards. Efren slammed the Chromebook shut. He could feel his chest heaving and knew it was simply a matter of seconds before he'd begin crying. He reached for a bathroom pass and held it up for Miss Covey to see. She nodded and gave him a thumbs up. Efren hurried to the boys' restroom and locked himself in the last stall. He sat on the toilet and pressed his fist hard against his forehead. It wasn't fair. If the roles were flipped and he'd been the one deported, Jennifer would be taking a stand and fighting for him. He couldn't sit around and do nothing. Jennifer deserved to be there. She also deserved to be ASB president, not David. As much as he tried to forget about the idea, the more it seemed to take root in his brain. The rest of the school day, Efren managed to avoid David, even ate lunch alone by the stairwell. And when the final bell rang, he hurried and made a quick stop at Miss Sala's room before going to pick up Max and Mia. After school, Efren gathered up all the dirty laundry. Worried about using up the last of his money, he searched every kitchen drawer, gathering up all the loose change he could find. Then he loaded up a rusty radio flyer wagon with a trash bag full of clothes, a carton of generic laundry soap, and, of course, Max and Mia. Once at the laundromat, Efren separated the family's clothes into 2 carts, one for colors, one for whites, while Max and Mia watched an episode of Dora the Explorer in the kids' area. That's when David rode up to the doorway. He parked his bike against the glass door. Hey, F-Mon, I've been looking everywhere for you. Hey, no worries about what happened yesterday. It's over. I did it. I won. He held up his fist for a dap. Efren half-heartedly returned the fist bump. Dude, you're not still mad, are you? David asked. Nah, just got a lot on my plate. David surveyed the 2 piles of clothes. I can see that. Without missing a beat, he reached over and picked up a tiny pair of Superman briefs. Are these yours? He asked, holding up the underwear for everyone in the room to see. No, those are Maxie's, and FYI, they're still kind of wet. Gross. David flicked the undies back onto the pile and wiped his hand on the side of his Lakers jersey. Oh, I almost forgot. David pulled out his iPhone. Check this out. Han sent me this message. It's for you, from Jennifer. It's in Spanish. Efren took the photo and scrolled down the screen. It was a photo of a drawing done on lined paper, a small plant blooming out from a pile of dirt. The words, "Eres una semilla," followed underneath. Efren shut his eyes. "Dude, what's wrong? Does it say something bad?" "No," Efren said, opening his eyes and handing back the phone. "It's just something she once told me. Only it was more than that." Efren ran his fingers through his hair and let out a big sigh. "Dude, there's something I really gotta tell you." "Alrighty," David took a seat on a washer. "What's up?" "I know this position isn't going to change the world, but I've got to do something." Efren fidgeted with one of Maxie's tube socks. "My parents gave up everything for me. I need to do something for them. Jennifer taught me that." David scrunched his forehead. "What are you talking about?" Efren took a big gulp of air. "I stopped by Miss Sala's office. Told her I'm running for ASB president too. She okayed it." "You mean vice president, don't you?" Efren looked away. "You're kidding, right?" Efren gazed down at the scratched tile floor, trying desperately not to make eye contact with David. But the hurt wasn't just on David's face, it was in his voice too. "Why would you do that?" "It's not for me, David. You know you're my best friend and I'd never do anything to hurt you, but I need to do this. Please try to understand." "What's there to understand? You're stabbing me in the back." "No, it's not like that." "Yes, it is. It's exactly like that. I mean, look at you. You have absolutely everything. You're great at school, good at sports. Your mom and dad, they worship you. I've seen the way they look at you. My dad won't even visit me, just sends me money." David's voice shook. "Being president is my chance to prove everyone wrong, but that's okay. I mean, you have to have everything, don't you?" "What about Ahmad? Do I have her?" Efren's thoughts shouted back. "It's not something you'd understand." "Oh, so now I'm too dumb to understand. You know what?" David leaned in and got in Efren's face. "I don't need you on my side to win the election. In fact, I don't need you as a friend either." Efren didn't know how to answer and stood there, eyes blinking. With that, David stormed out of the laundromat, hopped back onto his bike, and pedaled away. Too late, Efren ran after his friend. "David, wait!" Efren hollered from the sidewalk, but David never looked back. Ama was never very big on watching TV, not even the telenovelas that all the other mothers on the block raved about. So Efren felt bad about plopping the twins in front of the set and letting Elmo babysit. But he didn't have the strength to deal with Max's high energy or Mia's need to cuddle. Besides, Efren told himself, PBS shows are educational. He sat at the kitchen table with his head plopped down, letting the cool surface soothe his aching head. What a mess. Ama was gone. Appa was killing himself to raise the money to get her back. Jennifer was gone, and now Efren's friendship with David was over. Out of the blue, Efren heard the hint of a whistle. He looked up. At first he thought it came from the TV, but the screen just showed Mr. Noodle pretending to play an ear of corn as if it were a trumpet. And then he heard a whistle again, only much clearer now. Max's and Mia's heads perked up in perfect unison, and they turned to each other. Appa, they both hollered. There was no mistaking Appa's special entrance melody. Before Efren could react, the twins were already out the door and running down the stairs. Why was Appa whistling? He only did that whenever he had good news? Efren rushed outside and down the stairway, only to find Max and Mia latched onto each of Appa's legs like the little koalas on a eucalyptus branch. Appa looked up at Efren, smiling. Somehow Appa was full of energy again. Efren couldn't wait to hear the news. What happened? Appa laughed as he strained to climb the stairway. I joined a kundina at work. He held up a tiny slip of paper with a number on it. A what? It's a group fund where everyone puts money in and then takes turn borrowing the money each week. But no importa, I got the money. Efren rushed to Appa and wrapped him up with a huge hug. Now, without the need of overtime, Appa took everyone to the playground, and the four of them spent the next hour playing a game of tag. As Efren took a break to get water, he looked back and watched Appa chase me up the spiral slide. The moment was almost perfect. Soon Amma would be coming home where she belonged, and then the family